I quit my job after 7 months with no backup plan, just a couple months of an emergency fund and a whole lot of faith that I could build something on my own. Here's how I made that leap and what happened next. My name is Ben, and in this episode I'm going to be breaking down how I slowly built a business that fits around my life instead of letting it take over it. If you're in the middle of your own transition or even just thinking about starting something, I hope this gives you some clarity. I'm not here to show off the polished or shiny success story. I'm sharing the real process of a part-time entrepreneur as it's happening. My journey began in 2021 when I worked for a Facebook partner company in Berlin. I knew nothing about the position, but I found the interview questions online and I stuck sticky notes all around my laptop with the answers all over them. When I got to the interview, I sounded fantastic. I got the job, and I knew the second I got the job that I couldn't wait to quit. I know that's a very privileged thought to have, but I had this strong desire to create something of my own. It was during the middle of the pandemic, and the only times I went to the office were to sign the contract and then later return the equipment. My goal was simple. I just wanted to earn enough to build a couple months worth of an emergency fund so that I could go ahead and start my own business. And after 7 months, I did exactly that. So I quit. It was a leap of faith, but I was ready to take this risk. I handed in my gear, and that was the end of it. In early 2022, I launched my first business. And at that point, I was officially full-time in it. I had no idea what I was doing, so I just trial and errored my way through everything. The business was all about building frameworks and systems for other businesses. I didn't have a clearly defined niche at the start, but I started landing more and more clients in the osteopath space in the UK. I had a couple of clinic clients and I was earning enough to support myself, but it was pretty stressful. I had zero time for myself. It was pretty rough. So rough that my roommate literally forced me to get out of the house and go do something fun. For a moment, I forgot I was in Germany and fun isn't really a concept here. So the something fun was to go to the sauna. And if you're not from Germany, just a heads up, saunas here don't do clothes. Men, women, kids. Anyway, around that time, I decided to invest in some mentorship to help streamline my operations so that I could step back a bit without the whole thing crashing. I joined a private mentorship for a few months, which really helped me work through some mental blocks. All the while, I was still trying to grow the business. The client numbers were going up, the revenue was going up, but time was still my biggest problem. And even with just a dozen clients, I was fully maxed out. And looking back, it was definitely poor planning on my end, but I just didn't know any better. I also flew to London for a couple months, bouncing between friends' couches and staying with family, all while trying to not just make my business work, but make it work well. In 2023, I made a big decision. I took a step back from my own business. My former mentor just opened up a position in his company, so I immediately went home, did some research, and then sent out a really personal application. The next day, I got hired, and just like that, I shifted from being a full-time entrepreneur to a part-time one. I had to let go of some of my more stressful clients to free up some time and headspace. The main reason I joined his business was because I still had a lot to learn, and what better place to learn from than a company that is heading in the same direction that I wanted to go. I surrounded myself with great minds, and yes, I was definitely lucky to land that role, but it wasn't always smooth sailing. At one point, I actually got fired, but a couple of weeks later, I was rehired. Even with the bumps, I really enjoyed this new setup. I was freelancing part-time for his brand and then working part-time on my own business. Then towards the end of that year, I joined another business venture, this one in a completely different industry, which took me to South Africa for a few months. So now I was part-time freelancing, part-time on my own business, part-time on this new venture, and my time started to get really thin again. And that scared me because the last thing I wanted was to go back to that sauna in Germany. Most of 2024 was split between those three ventures. And if you think juggling 3 businesses is wild, well, I added a 4th. Yeah, I partnered with a startup in Germany. But it wasn't a random move. I didn't just jump in it blindly. I did think it through. The main reason I joined it was because I wanted to add another income stream. And since it was in the same line of work as my own business, I figured, why not? We ended up doing some amazing things with that startup. My role focused on building systems for our clients' businesses, and we helped a lot of people strengthen their back-end operations, training them and helping them succeed. It was a lot of fun, but for the rest of the year, I was split between 4 different ventures. And even though most of them were aligned with the direction that I was already going in, I felt a bit like I was being pulled away from my main focus. Fast forward to 2025. After taking a month off from nearly all work and flying back to Germany from the US, I decided to do some hard reflecting. Nearly every venture that I was a part of was doing pretty well. I was helping grow the startup in Germany. Then I was doing videos for multiple brands and even directed a large funded commercial, which was really fun. I was getting new clients with my own framework building business. So I was working a lot and had loads of fun during this period. But again, after some reflecting and a lot of walks right over there, I wanted to start crafting the life that I wanted a bit more strategically. So I went back to the drawing board and I wrote out where all my time was going. I broke it out day by day, and most of the time was going towards the German startup business and very little time was going towards my own business. But the revenue was still consistent. I was working less hours but earning more on my own framework building business. It was ironic because I was building great systems for businesses that saved them money, time and headache, but I didn't do the same for my own life. Anyway, the hamster wheel in my head started to move again and I made another change. I decided to break apart from a couple ventures. Now I was just down to two: part-time entrepreneur and part-time freelancing. Back to the original duo. It took me a while, but I went full circle. I freed up 70% of my time and was not earning much less. Now it was time to go all in on my framework building business while still working in and learning from my mentor and his brand. Once I did that, I found it was far easier to grow than I originally thought. After implementing frameworks for myself, I was able to start fresh and get clients that I really enjoyed working with and who have now become good friends. I made a whole video on how I added a low stress income stream through the framework building business, and I'll link that below. I will soon be moving to Switzerland, so there will be a bit of change, but my plan is to quietly and consistently grow this business in the most natural and organic way possible, without heavy or in-your-face marketing. I still enjoy being a part of the brand that I freelance with, and I continue to learn and grow a lot from being a part of it. So this was a highlight reel of my journey so far. There was definitely a lot of chaos and fear and doubt along the way. That's why I want this channel to be as transparent and raw as possible. And again, show the process as it is happening and not just show you the shiny end goal. So if you have a small whisper telling you to start your own venture, then I want to invite you to this channel where I can encourage that whisper and see where it takes you in your life. If you want to see the episode of how I added a low stress income stream to my income, then check out this video, and thank you for watching.